ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Movie Reviews and Storytimes. Long time no see, long time no talk. How are you? I hope you're good. This is definitely a brand new YouTuber based in Abuja, Nigeria, West Africa. And this is my channel, Evermore 1993 is one word, YouTube channel. How are you doing? Missed you guys, but we've been trying to add more segments to the channel, so the prep time has been a lot more, hence why this is coming to you at this wonderful time. You've been soaking up all of our previous episodes whilst waiting for new episodes. What are you waiting for? Go to the Evermore 1993 as one word, type that in your search button as one word, Evermore 1993, and you see my channel. Okay? Type it in, get on the channel, subscribe, watch all our offerings, our YouTube shorts, our YouTube longs, watch every one of them, press the like button, share, comment, subscribe, invest in this brand. We're going places, join on the band, join on the brand, and yeah, get yourself up to speed with this new episode of Movie Reviews. Right, on today's episode of Movie Reviews, we will be reviewing an American film named Devotion. Now, Devotion came out in 2022. Based on a real life story, so a lot of the events shown in this film actually happened. It's film based in the 1950s. Now this is a movie about naval aviators that existed in the 1950s. Now it follows the man Ensign Brown Jesse and another man, his friend Tom Hudner. Jesse is black, African American, and Tom is white. And in his group of naval officers, naval aviators, Mr. Jesse is the only black aviator. Literally meaning the only black pilot that can fly, like a fighter jet plane that can go off to war, when jets are shooting rockets, when jets are shooting missiles and whatnot. Those who fly them in the US, they are called naval aviators. They are in the Navy. And Mr. Jesse Brown is the only black in his entire team and his entire squad. Right, and in the 1950s, of course, there was still a little bit of racism. Yes, officially racism had been abolished, like blacks and whites could live in the same neighborhood. For instance, in the neighborhood where Mr. Jesse lived, his right door neighbor was a white woman, but she didn't like them at all. She didn't like the fact that she had to live next to blacks. She didn't like the fact that they could even afford to live in that neighborhood. They could afford a car, they were comfortable. He was married, he had a child, a young daughter named Pam. You will see them in the film if you do get to watch Devotion. So as much as there was no official racism, there was the unofficial racism, the unofficial, you don't belong here, like how did you get here? Glares, remarks here and there, body language. And so Mr. Jesse I would say he was still living the way he probably would in a racist world. So he pretty much put his head down, pretty much was as humble as possible, wouldn't draw unnecessary attention to himself, but would definitely be good at his job enough to keep his job. And he also did love flying planes, so this was not hard for him. It wasn't hard for him to stand out. It wasn't hard for him to pretty much be the best in his team, pretty much be one of the best in the entire squad. So without him even wanting to. The attention will still all the way come back to him, and it will come with a lot of hate, jealousy, envy, lots of really smart remarks here and there from white people that just could not take the fact that a black person had made it in to a fully white community and a fully white elite club, sort of. They always assumed blacks were not smart enough, and here was one black proving them wrong. So they didn't really like to stare at the one person who proved them wrong and see him prove them wrong over and over again with just how good he was at flying the plane. So he pretty much was really smart with the way he moved in that time. He tried as much as he could not to draw attention to himself. He tried not to stand out too much, even though his skin color stood him out already. But like, I would applaud his team, like everyone but for one person in the team just really didn't make it seem like it was so big a deal that he was black. They all just blended in with him. They all related with him normally, even including his lieutenant general. Like, he didn't make it any big a deal. Like, I have to commend the actor who played the lieutenant general, because it was such a Negro role, but just how he took that role and embodied it made it stand out. Like, you would always look forward to hear how he interpret what he had to say, just how he'll express the communication, the dialogue. And I think he's a great actor who definitely deserves a lot more roles, and probably lead roles. Like, he really took this role and made it into something, when I don't know if the writers even cared for it to be that much, you know what I'm saying? So definitely have to applaud that guy. And then right back to Mr. Jesse and Mr. Tom. So the movie opens with Mr. Tom driving into the naval ports, like their station, sort of. So he comes into the room where he's assigned, and he meets Jesse. Jesse is the first person he meets. They introduce themselves, shake hands, and the other guys in their squad come in. They all introduce themselves, pretty much get acquainted with each other. They are now all a member of one team. And so this period, I think it's after the war. So majorly what they ask each other first is, did you fight in the war? Did you fight in the war? And majority of them really didn't fight in the war. They were all born or graduated from naval school or pilot school some years after the war ended or before the war ended, so they were not able to participate in the war. And this is some kind of sore thumb for every one of them. They all wanted to participate in the war. They all wanted to have that war badge, shall I say. So you see all of them kind of feel sad that they could not join the war. And so yeah, they are here in the naval, station and whatnot. They're taking classes every day, training themselves, staying sharp just in case any situation arises where they are needed, flying their planes every day for checks and whatnot. And after that, then Mr. Jesse and Mr. Tom are grouped together as a team to fly together their planes and whatnot. And then Mr. Tom gets to see Mr. Jesse fly his plane, and like how dangerously he flies his plane and how good he flies his plane. And he loves to fly close to his home, like to at least alert his wife and whatnot. So Mr. Tom is a bit shaken up by just how almost dangerous Mr. Jesse likes to fly, and kind of wants to get to know him, kind of wants to break down the walls, be friends. But Mr. Jesse is just, not really up to it. To him, this is just another white kid trying to be nice or whatnot. So he's not really opening up to Mr. Tom like that. But over the course of the film, we get to see that they do open up to each other. Mr. Jesse gets to trust Mr. Tom enough to invite him home, introduce him to his wife and his young daughter, Pam. The wife, in turn, realizes that, look, for this man to bring you home, that means he trusts you, because Mr. Jesse don't trust people like that. So she as well opens up to Mr. Tom and asks him to, ensure that her husband is safe when they're out there. This was around the time when China was trying to invade Korea, South Korea mostly. They were allies of the North Korean side of the country, and so the North Koreans were still fighting for dominance over the South. They wanted to unify the Korean country, but under the North, and the South would not have it. So America is helping the South, China is helping the North. So that is bringing a lot of tension, a lot of disagreements, war threats, and whatnot. So yeah, there's a lot of that. And then on the other hand, Russia were already testing out nuclear weapons, building new fighter jets, and pretty much they and America were building same designs somehow. I think they had spies, I don't know. But like, yeah, this was just a time when war had finished, but it seemed like some people wanted the war to continue, sort of, and some countries would rather not. So there was that whole dance fight thing happening, and so the naval aviators are supposed to be on alert, just in case Russia or China does something, America can instantly react and instantly respond and protect themselves, protect their allies. So then, I think Russia does something and they're told to go in, a particular captain of a ship or warship comes in to draft them to be the naval aviators to take on the mission from Pentagon, which is like the defense leader or defense council of America. And so yeah, they have to ship off, and so they're all left one day to go spend time with their families. And Jesse is telling his wife about this, and she's not really happy because she knows what this means. He's going off, he might not come back. It's a dangerous job her husband does. She loves him, but she wishes he had a better job or a safer job. For some reason, I feel like we cover a lot of army people on this page, a lot of films centered on army people. We've done at least, I think, 2 now. This seems to be our 3rd or 2nd one, and with every one of these films, these people seem to marry people that love them too much to want to lose them. They all seem to be just such nice guys that like their partners are so skeptical about letting them go do their job because they don't want to lose this good a partner. And somehow these guys are like the best partners, if not some of the best partners. They are the most loving, the most attentive. And on top of that, they combine that with not always being around. So it's a tug of war as well for this lady. She's married, she has a child. This is her husband, she loves him. We do see a little bit of what their love life is like, and it's beautiful to see. For those, like, this is an African American man who suffered racism, but like who's a naval aviator. It's not easy at his job either, but when he's home with this woman, he's at peace, he's loving, he's attentive, he's playing, he's joking with his wife and his daughter. There's a scene that they show you where he comes home to her painting the house and playing music. And so because the music is a bit loud in the room and she's so immersed in painting the walls, she doesn't hear him coming, and he tiptoes to her and plants a kiss on her neck and hugs her from behind. And she jumps a little bit before she realizes it's him, and she welcomes him home. And the first thing this woman says is, "You're in time to make dinner." Look, the Nigerian in me was surprised because this man goes off to work. He, according to the film, makes majority of the money. At least she seems to be a housewife, so she wasn't really holding a job. She just stayed home, took care of the home and their child. They were comfortable, so this man was providing. He had a car and he was black, so this is definitely iconic, to say the least. And you tell this man to come home from that work that provides everyone's meal and the roof over their head and still go into the kitchen and make dinner? Like, the Nigerian in me was shook because you can't do this to Nigerian men. FYI, if you're not from Nigeria, I'ma tell you the 411 Nigerians. If that man is providing the money, you better be in the kitchen cooking. That is the Nigerian mentality for the men. I not necessarily ascribe to it, but like, I looked at this man, he was okay with it. He said, "Okay, but may I have this dance?" He danced with his wife, played with his daughter, and went to make dinner after coming home from work, from flying planes, yo. His wife was painting the house. She didn't have to leave that to go make dinner. She didn't have to do nothing else. She didn't have to shake and say, "Oh my goodness, I have not made dinner, he'll be upset." Nothing. And it was okay. I felt like breath of fresh air. I loved that scene so much, and I honestly wish more men were like that. They can contribute their quota to the home. It's okay to switch duties. It's okay to make dinner sometimes. It's okay to take care of your child, be there for her, play with her, change her diapers, put her back to bed, babysit her, feed her, play with her, play with your wife. Marriage is not just sex. It's not just obey me, honor me, respect me. Play, have fun, laugh. They had fun in the home together, So when you see her hesitant to let him go, you know why. She's truly right that this man is a treasure and she doesn't want to lose him. This is a man who suffered racism. No man of the 21st century has any excuse to be anything less than him character-wise. And yet he was the most present, the most loving. How do you combine that? How can light come out from a place that everyone has wanted to pull down with so much darkness? And somehow he managed it, and it's so refreshing to see that, to know that he didn't have to become dark just because everyone was making or trying to make him dark. He was even more lighter. The more darker they tried to paint him or make him, the more lighter he was, So that scene is like one of my favorite scenes, period. The scene where he came home and she told him to go make dinner, and he did. After playing with his wife and child, he went make dinner. He didn't curse on her, nothing. He instead played with her, danced with her before he went to make dinner. That, my dears, is one of my favorite scenes in the entire film. So yeah, that was one of my most favorite episodes in the film. So yeah, they're back at the dining table, and she's obviously worried about him going off to this, mission and whatnot, but he succeeds in, calming her down, and he's now worried because they brought on a new plane. He's never flown before for the mission, and according to him, he can't see out of it. The nose is designed in such a way that it's too high for him to see past it, to see the horizon and whatnot. So he's a bit worried about that, and there's a little test they have to carry out before they are officially selected to be on the mission, and it involves being able to fly and land the plane on the carrier. So he's really, focused on that and trying to nail the whole thing. And we also then see, as he had comforted her, she turned back on him and tried to comfort him too, and encourage him to, get it on and really succeed at landing the mission. And it works. He lands it. It took him a bit of a time, and it was a bit difficult for him, but he does land it, and so the entire team actually lands it. But another scene that was kind of cool was when it was his turn and he was flying the plane. On the carrier, we see all the black sailors come out to stand and watch him, kind of root for him to land, because he's the only pilot. There are a ton of sailors, but he's the only pilot, so they kind of are rooting for the only one of their own to succeed. And so they're all standing watching with expectation as he's about to land it. And when he does land it, you see the smiles on all their faces. They are clapping their hands, they're happy and proud that one of their own made it. He really proved that they can be smart. Black people are smart too. It's not just a thing that is reserved for white people. So yeah, that's another cool scene. And so they dock at Cannes in France. These are lingos that are for the Navy, by the way. Dock means because it's a carrier ship, right, that carries naval ship planes and whatnot, and carries their lander gear, the road on which they land, they get parked and all of that, they train on. It's a sort of ship that's called a carrier for some reason. And so it's on this carrier that they are housed, their planes are housed. They take off and land on it for any missions they are going on. It's usually on sea, for the Navy and whatnot. So yeah, this particular ship, they give them like a day break, to go see Cannes in France and, pretty much have an excursion of some sort. So all the guys are really out to have fun and see girls and whatnot. And he, of course, had already promised his wife to get her bikinis and stuff, European bikinis. And so he goes to the shop, he separates himself from the guys. He goes into the store where it's been sold, he gets it, and he's now taking a walk across the beach, and he's literally the only black person. I'm telling you guys, everybody else on that beach were white. Crazy. And so somehow he runs into Elizabeth Taylor. So this was around the time she was still really young. She was really the famous actress of her time. If you all don't know, Elizabeth Taylor was the famous actress who played Cleopatra, really gave that character face and name and all this prestige it has and whatnot. And one of the most beautiful women in the world. She married nothing less than twice, and up until when she was old, there were still men proposing marriage to Miss Elizabeth Taylor with the biggest rings in the world. And she didn't just marry nobodies, like really accomplished notable men were smitten with this woman's beauty. She was the most beautiful woman in the world in her time. She was the face of Elizabeth Arden, I think, brand and whatnot. She was an icon in her time. So this movie, I guess it was around the 1950s. She was, reigning as a young actress. So it kind of connects up. And since it's based on a real life story, I guess the real Jessie Brown actually met her. And so he meets her on the beach, and she's really curious about him, and he explains himself, tells her, oh, he's a naval aviator, and she's surprised, like they allow colored people into the Navy now. That's really nice. So she's really nice to him, she invites him over to a party she's having that night. He proceeds to tell her, I'm black, they might not let me in, and she's very adamant. She's like, you tell them Elizabeth Taylor invited you. And I love that she did that. So with that boldness and confidence, he goes back to his guys and tells them, you know what, I just got invited to a party with Elizabeth Taylor, y'all coming? They didn't believe in, they placed a bet with money and everything. And at the gates, they wear all their fancy naval suits and they look really nice in their uniforms, right? They wear white and everything. So they get to the door of the party, there's security, and they have to state their names. And of course, he's the one she invited, so he's the one that walks up to the guys, and in English he tells them, oh, Elizabeth Taylor invited me. And the guy straight up tells him, I know that you weren't invited. He ignores that and just proceeds to tell the other guy, can you at least just look through your list to see if I'm invited? They don't even bother looking through the list. They just assume since it's black, there's no way he could have been invited. And they tell them to leave, So Tom comes to Mr. Jesse's ear and whispers, you know what, we can go to a different party, let's go. Just as they're about to go, Jesse turns around to this man and speaks full on in French and tells him to look through the list that Miss Elizabeth Taylor invited them. They are so surprised that he even understands French, not to talk of speak. They look through the list and see his name there, and they open it up, the gates up to them. Like everyone is, even his team, they are surprised because they don't know he could speak French, right? So with that, they all enter the party and they all see her, and of course he wins the bet. They give him the money right there. He walks up to her and introduces, or lets her know that he's there, and she says, oh, you again, welcome, these are your guys. They all hang out gambling and whatnot, and they stay there for a bit. And with that, they just show how he saved the day and pretty much gave his team a cool party time during their day off and everything. So yeah, it's a beautiful film, and a lot of the times it's centered on Jessie Brown and Tom, and just how their friendship grew from just being assigned to fly with each other to being real friends. At the point, Jesse's car packed up on the road, so as he was repairing it, Tom drives by, sees him, and gives him a lift home. And they talk a little bit about Tom's family too. He comes from a rich family that owns a lot of grocery stores, and his dad wanted him to inherit them, but he would rather be a naval aviator. So even though his family lives nearby, he doesn't really stay with them. Maybe there's a bit of conflict, I don't know. But they really get close and everything. They become real friends. They fly together, in their jets and planes and whatnot. And so the real war comes. They have to go to China and stop China from trying to help North Korea defeat South Korea. That mission goes well, even though I have to commend that Tom was given leadership of the team who would lead that mission, and Jesse, seeing that it was his friend, kind of took advantage of that, I would say, because I feel like if it was his other leader, he wouldn't have disobeyed the order and run off to go make a name for himself by destroying the bridge. He would have obeyed the leader, maybe disgruntledly, but still he would have obeyed the leader. But because it was his friend, he kind of looked down on the man's leadership, Tom's leadership. And when they were supposed to bomb 2 bridges, but the team who were involved in the bombing did only 1. But Tom had already said, we have gotten 1 success, let's pull out. This is already dangerous zone. We're not supposed to ignite another war with China. We are supposed to tread really carefully. We've done 1, it's good, let's go. Jesse, seeing that the other bridge wasn't bombed, was like, you know what, I can actually get this. I can go there and bomb the bridge. But Tom is like, no, we need to leave. And he just ignores Tom's instructions and, orders, and goes to bomb the bridge. And when they get home, Tom is supposed to report how the mission went. He reports it as it went exactly, truth be told. And of course, it means Jesse committed insubordination. And so it's put in his records. And that means he can't get promoted anymore. So there's a scene where they talk about it, and I don't really support what Brown did. I understand we're supposed to bomb both bridges, but we got 1, and the point was to at least get 1. That was the point of the entire mission. At least get 1 bridge, bomb that, and it's good. We are by all means not supposed to aggravate the Chinese to the point of them creating or starting another war. That was also very important, really well spelled out. So everyone was treading really carefully. For him to go off on his own, to go make a name for himself, was really selfish, I would say. I understand he's the only black. He needed to stand out, represent for his people, whatnot. But at this kind of ops, you are together as a team. You are weaker as a single person. It's only when you're a team you're stronger. So him going off on his own, he put his entire team in danger, because everyone then had to wait for him to finish bombing the bridge before they could all go home together. Now, whilst waiting, something else could have come through. They could have lost their planes. They could have lost their lives. He put all those lives in danger just so he could make a name for himself. And that was really incredibly selfish of him, incredibly condescending of him too. He looked down on he didn't show respect and regard for the leadership and authority of his friend. If you're in Nigeria, you know this thing called C finish. He exhibited C finish with the guy, sort of. Because if it wasn't his friend in charge, he wouldn't have done what he did, because he knows it would have gotten him fired or at least suspended. But because he was his friend, thought, I can do it, and I still my friend. It's not anything big, but he's your friend when you guys are together. Now he's the one in charge of a mission. You cannot treat it the same. I've always said this, that love has to have priorities. It has to have boundaries. It has to have respect. It has to have honor, value. If it doesn't have those things, it's not really love. If you disrespect the person you claim to love, you have no value for the person. If you have no respect, if you do not understand boundaries, I cannot do this, I don't do this, and you respect that, you honor that. If you can't do that, then what exactly is your love? What are you loving on? What do you mean when you say you love someone? So I think he really disrespected the guy in that position, and he then had an entitled mentality about it. He thought the guy shouldn't have reported the truth. He came telling the guy, oh, how can you do this? How can you tell them I was insubordinate? But you kind of were, though. If you weren't, nobody will say you were, and he's not the only one who has to report on the mission. Every other person who were on the mission, they all reported the same thing, the truth. And the truth means you disrespected and did not honor the order of your leader. Hi guys, so for reasons I cannot explain, I had to split the video into 2 parts. So this is the end of part 1. So stay tuned for part 2. Yeah, that's it. Have a lovely day. Be blessed. God bless you. You know the drill. Love on God. Fulfill God's purpose and plans for your life. Love on humanity. Love on yourself. You're amazing. You are the only one that there ever was created to be you. You are the original you. Be you indeed. Love on yourself. Love on God. Love on people. And take care of yourself. God bless you. Bye. Stay tuned for part 2, guys. Bye.